I thought you'd want me to start something different because I've always started with, hi, everybody, it's me. So I thought I'd start something differently or in a different way. I'm so tired. Let's look at chapter 49, Pride and Prejudice, dollies. So, number 1, how many days after Mr. Bennet's return did an express come from Mr. Gardner? Anyone? Anyone? Marshall? Forgot your backpack again, huh, Marshall? Marshall. Who else can I call? Liam. Liam's got his hand up. Liam. Yes? Thank you, Liam. You are correct. 2 days. Thank you so much. I would have called on Kevin, but I would have known it was the same answer because you obviously give Kevin all of his answers. Of course. Number 2, what did the letter state was, quote, all that was required of Mr. Bennet to secure Lydia's marriage? Well, let's see. Let's look and see exactly what is necessary. Vinny? Vinny, where are you? Vinny? Okay, I'll give you the answer. All that is required of you is to assure to your daughter by settlement her equal share of the 5,000 pounds secured among your children after the decease of yourself and my sister, Mrs. Bennet, and moreover to enter into an engagement of lowering her during your lifetime 100 pounds a year. So she will get $1,000 on the death of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, and isn't it 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 100 pounds a year. That's it. That's all he wants. That sounds a little fishy to me. That doesn't sound like a lot of money, especially when Wickham can command so much. He almost just married Mary King for 10,000 pounds, and he only wants 100 pounds a year as long as Mr. Bennet is alive. Mr. Bennet could live, I don't know, 20 years. So Wickham's only going to get 2,000 pounds, and then they're going to die. I'm sorry. And that's 100 pounds a month. So not even 2,000 at a lump sum. And then when Mr. Bennet dies, the 100 pounds a month stops, but they get 1,000 pounds a year. 1,000 pounds total. Boom. End of story. So he gets a total of maybe 3,000 pounds if Mr. Bennet lives for another 20 years. Whoa. That's not a lot of money if you think about it. Something's fishy about this. Anybody have any thoughts? Tasha? Sarah Edwards? Maggie Weaver? Mariana? Leslie? Jocelyn? I'm just going through the list. I miss you guys so much. Okay, let's continue on because it's late on Friday night and I got to go spend time with my babies. Number 3, my other babies, sorry. Number 3, what 2 things does Mr. Bennet want to know about the deal between Wickham and Mr. Gardner? Mr. Bennet says, yes, they must marry. There is nothing else to be done. But there are 2 things that I want very much to know. One is how much money your uncle has laid down to bring this about. And the other, how am I ever to repay him? Mr. Bennet is not a stupid man. He might be negligent as a father, but he's not a stupid man. He recognizes that Wickham is a handsome guy. I don't know if any of you, actually I know Mariana has, but I don't know if any of the others of you have watched Emma yet. But there's a scene in Emma, one of many wonderful scenes. I really enjoy it. I know we were supposed to go see it. I'm sorry. But there's a scene in Emma where Emma is trying to matchmake Mr. Elton, who is the minister. And Mr. Knightley is her... No, she's not trying to matchmake Knightley and Elton, silly goosies. But Emma is talking to Mr. Knightley. They're having a conversation. And Knightley's like, look, I don't know who you're trying to set up Mr. Elton with, but Mr. Elton knows how handsome he is. Mr. Elton talks about this group of ladies, the family with like 5 daughters in Bath. And they all have like 20,000 pounds each. So whoever you're trying to think of for Mr. Elton, they need to be loaded because he knows he's going to go to the highest bidder. And Emma's like, pish posh, but that's a different story. But I want you to realize that men at that time, they knew that they were attractive. Just like men today know that they're attractive, and they have these ideals of, hey, I'm too good for that girl. I'm almost too good for that girl. That one, I'm shooting for the stars and I'm going to get her. But here, Mr. Wickham thinks that he is a shooting for the stars kind of guy. And so Mr. Bennet is like, I don't know. Not just because of attraction, like Lydia is a beautiful girl. We are told that from the beginning. But he almost married Georgiana Darcy. He almost marries Mary King. And I'm sure there's a spattering of other women that he's had his way with. So this guy shouldn't have to settle. And that's what Mr. Bennet is saying. Don't you agree? Good. I'm glad you do agree. I love it when you guys agree with me because I'm right. Let's look at number 4. How much does Mr. Bennet believe Mr. Gardner paid to Mr. Wickham? Nick. Nicholasing. Okay, Ali Chula, poke him, wake him up. I know he's asleep. Yeah. Yes, Nick, you. I know you don't have the luxury of listening to my lectures twice, so you don't know the answers right off the top of your head. But let's try that again because I know you know the answer to this one. Number 4. How much does Mr. Bennet believe Mr. Gardner had to pay Mr. Wickham? Good, Nick. Yes, 10,000 pounds. 10,000 pounds. I should be sorry to think so ill of him in the very beginning of our relationship. 10,000 pounds. That is Mary King's entire dowry. That is how much Mr. Darcy's income is an entire year. 10,000 pounds. Remember, that's like $1 million. Holy crap. That's a lot of money. And the fact that Mr. Gardner, her uncle, had to pay this, right? He's not a Mr. Darcy that has money coming out of his pockets, you know, but he is wealthy. He's obviously wealthier than the Bennets. He just doesn't have an established estate. And so he is cash wealthy, not land wealthy, as opposed to Mr. Bennet. So yeah, Mr. Gardner paid at least 10,000 pounds. So Wickham would marry Lydia. Let's look at question number 5. Question number 5. Why is this quotation ironic? And they really are to be married. We are forced to rejoice. Oh, Lydia. I'm actually going to read the entire quotation. And they are really to be married, cried Elizabeth, as soon as they were by themselves. How strange this is, and for this we are to be thankful, that they should marry, small as is their chance of happiness and wretched as is his character. We are forced to rejoice. Oh, Lydia. Sarah Edwards, why do you think this is ironic? Okay. Yeah. Good. So for those of you that couldn't hear Sarah, let me go ahead and tell you what she said. Interrupt me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but I'm pretty sure this is what you said. It's ironic because this is not going to be a happy marriage. This is not something that they're happy about. They are not happy for the fact that Lydia ran off and ruined her reputation. And so she is forced to marry this cad. She's forced to marry this rake who's a jerk, right? And however, Elizabeth and her family have to rejoice. They have to be grateful because if Wickham refused to marry Lydia, their reputations would have been ruined. They would have been in a horrible situation themselves. So not only would Lydia have been ruined, but they would have as well. So they have to be grateful that they're getting married. It's kind of sad if you think about it. Number 6, what does Jane comfort herself with thinking, and how does this show her true character? Sweet little Jane. I'll take this one. Jane says, I comfort myself with thinking that he certainly would not marry Lydia if he had no real regard for her. Oh, Jane, you're so naive. Cam, what do you think about that? Yeah. Could you wake Joe up too while you're at it? Yes, I agree. I think that does show Jane is naive. It shows that she still wants to believe in the goodness of everybody, even though one of the filthiest, most disgusting men, obviously personality, characteristics, and moral code of ethics. I'm not talking about physical appearance because Mr. Wickham is an attractive man. We know that. But one of the most disgusting men ever is going to be her brother. They didn't say brother-in-law. They didn't say sister-in-law. They said brother or sister. So Wickham is going to be her brother. And she obviously just is an optimistic, let's look on the bright side kind of a person. But she also, I think, in studying Jane's character a little bit more, I think that's her coping mechanism. If I really want to delve into the psychology of Jane Bennet, fictional character from Jane Austen, I really believe that that is how she copes. because she's fragile and she has a very fragile emotional state. And so she can't deal with a lot of things that Elizabeth can handle and that other people might be able to handle because Jane has never been put through the fire before. What really, the worst thing that's ever happened to her is Mr. Bingley leaving. So I think that she just has to see goodness in everybody. And to be honest, I don't think that that's a negative. I think that that's just how some people cope. I know for myself personally, I always try to be optimistic. I always try to look for the positive. I always try to look for the good in people. Although I can be a cynical little pill sometimes, ask my brothers or my husband. I do try to see goodness because why should we look for darkness in others? All right, that's the end of chapter 49. I will shut this off. Wish you guys a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, social distance, stay away from each other. Love you guys. Miss you so much. Have a great day. LRHS.